The man's girlfriend had just accepted his proposal, but before he could call his friends and family to share the joy,
Yeah.
Danny,
Yeah, just a sec, Frank.
you gotta go outside.
he followed the waiter's gaze, and Danny's heart nearly stopped. The girlfriend who had just been smiling moments ago, Helen, was now lying in the middle of the road, completely motionless. A sudden car accident shattered all of Danny's beautiful hopes for the future. Thanks to emergency treatment, Helen's life was saved, but due to severe brain damage, she was left in a vegetative state, unable to move, sustained only by basic vital signs. Memories flashed through Danny's mind like a slideshow. Since then, it felt like he was trapped in a fog, no longer holding hope for life. The dreams that once lit up his world had quietly vanished. The future became a blur. To him, everything had lost its meaning. To escape the daily torment, Danny once considered ending his own life. But he was afraid that if Helen woke up one day and didn't find him there, what then? All these thoughts pushed him to make a life-changing decision, to join the cryogenic chamber project that his friend Harry had recently been working on.
You've been through an awful lot.
I thought this through.
No, forget it.
I've been in the service for 12 years.
Danny, this
I'm
is silly.
military. I'm healthy. I got no family. I got nowhere to go. I know tests. I know experiments. It's my job.
Since the project was still in the testing phase, Harry didn't want Danny taking the risk. But no matter how many times Harry tried to talk him out of it, Danny acted like he didn't hear a word. He only gave one request. If Helen woke up during the year, make sure to wake him up too. Realizing Danny's determination, Harry knew that nothing he said would matter anymore. Because the test slots were full, Harry had no choice but to secretly carry out the freezing procedure behind the backs of the other lab staff. And it was this risky, unauthorized procedure that completely rewrote the course of Danny's entire second half of life. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, 50 years had passed. Two young boys ran into an old warehouse scheduled for demolition. There, they discovered a metal pod that looked like a submarine. Yes, this was the cryogenic capsule that had frozen Danny all those years ago. The two boys twisted the knobs on the pod out of curiosity and accidentally unlocked the hatch. Driven by curiosity, Felix pulled open the zipper on the body bag.
He's called too. Do you think he's dead?
Nat was so terrified he stripped off his jacket and ran away. Danny didn't regain consciousness until 2 hours later. He crawled out of the cryo chamber and took a long time to adjust to standing and walking on his own 2 feet. He grabbed a shirt and pants from someone's balcony and put them on. The first thing he did was rush to a payphone by the street to call his friend, hoping to find out how long he'd been asleep and what had happened during that time. While he was still confused, a helicopter flew overhead. By the light, he saw the banner hanging on a nearby building. The year was 1992. It had been 50 years since he chose to be frozen. Though half a century had passed, to Danny it all felt like yesterday. To find out why he had been asleep for so long, and what had happened in the world while he was gone, Danny went to the nearest police station for help. He wanted them to help him get in touch with his friend Harry, but unsurprisingly, no one believed something as outrageous as sleeping for 50 years. Seeing the officer treat him with disbelief and sarcasm, Danny quickly realized he wouldn't be any help, so he decided to find another way. After leaving the police station, he used a clue from the jacket to find Nat's home. Nat and Felix panicked and fled to the treehouse in their backyard. Danny endured a beating from the kids and reassured them multiple times that he wasn't a bad guy. Only then did they calm down. Kids have wild imaginations. They're more open to things that sound unbelievable. And Nat and Felix had seen him come out of the cryopod with their own eyes, so after just a short talk, they believed Danny's story and decided to help him however they could. Danny spent the entire day calling every person in the phone book with the same name as his friend. When that led nowhere, he went to a bookstore to use a computer and search for records of the past. Still, he found nothing. It was as if Harry had vanished from existence. There wasn't a single trace of him in the news. That night, Nat and Felix noticed Danny was feeling down. They brought out their secret stash of snacks. To them, good food was the best way to forget sadness. Nat even found some related books for Danny to read. Before leaving, he told Danny to stay here and rest assured. As long as their mom didn't find out, they would bring him food every day. As the treehouse fell into silence, Danny's thoughts drifted back to 50 years ago. Had Helen never woken up? Or did she wake up and marry someone else? This question echoed in his mind. Just then, a shattering sound of glass pulled Danny back to reality. The woman was likely Nat's mother. and she was being attacked. Even setting aside the fact that Nat had taken him in, and he should be grateful, Danny couldn't possibly turn a blind eye. His conscience wouldn't allow it. He rushed into the house. Thanks to his pilot-level physical training, he easily chased off the attacker, faced with the woman's confused expression. As she bandaged his wounds, Claire explained who the man was. At best, he was just a pursuer. At worst, he was a drunken stalker who constantly harassed her. While they were talking, Nat and Felix returned home after finishing their homework at a friend's place. When they saw Danny standing in front of their mother, they froze in shock. It turned out Claire had heard her son mention Danny waking up from a cryo chamber before, but she hadn't taken it seriously at all. She just thought it was an excuse he made up to cover for losing his jacket. Danny's act of bravery, along with his son's heartfelt pleading, made Claire decide not to reject letting a stranger stay overnight. Truth is, she had her own reasons. She knew that drunken man would probably come back, and having Danny around would serve as a strong deterrent. Even if the kids hadn't asked, she had already planned to let Danny stay. Finally, since waking up, Danny, who had been wandering in confusion, found a place to stay. With Nat's help, and Danny's own willingness to play along with the lie, Claire came to believe that Danny was just a poor soul, forced to leave his home with nowhere else to go. With his living situation no longer a problem, Danny threw himself into the search for clues about Harry. But again and again, he found nothing. Each failed attempt, each dead end, each burst of hope followed by disappointment slowly drained his motivation and expectations. Gradually, Danny stopped being so persistent. He began to slow down, still looking for clues, but also revisiting old places from his past. The airbase where he had once served as a pilot had now become a museum.
Can you find anybody to rescue?
During this time, Claire and Danny didn't talk much, but Claire could clearly sense that Danny was carrying a heavy burden.
My buddy was supposed to be here when I woke up. He used to live around here. Now I can't find him. I know that sounds desperate, but he really is all I have left.
Danny left out the part about having been frozen for 50 years to avoid unnecessary complications. Claire still felt a deep sense of pity and sympathy. For the first time since waking up, Danny had someone who actually listened to his story, and that alone gave him a bit of peace. The shift in mindset not only improved Danny's mental state, but also changed the way he viewed his pursuit of the truth. But just as he decided to take a break from the search and try to integrate into society, an old wound that refused to heal and even began to worsen made Danny feel a growing fear. One day, while helping Nat's family repair the roof, he was suddenly struck by intense chest pain. He nearly fell off the roof. Only then did Danny realize staying young after sleeping for 50 years came at a cost. Uncertain whether he had a day or a year left to live, he couldn't bear the thought of dying with unanswered questions. So he braced himself and restarted the search for Harry. Meanwhile, on the other side, the head of a mysterious department deduced Danny's existence from the opened cryo chamber. Using cryogenic freezing to extend human lifespan had always been the focus of their research. And now that a living, breathing success story was right in front of them, there was no way they'd let him go easily. But what they didn't expect was that the prolonged freezing had already caused side effects in Danny. When Nat saw what was happening, he ran helplessly into the street. He threw himself in front of traffic, trying to get help. Soon Danny was rushed to the hospital, and by coincidence, Claire worked there as a nurse.
I'm not making this up.
After her son explained everything, Claire was still unsure what to believe, until she saw Danny's face, now lined with wrinkles and his hair streaked with white. Realizing that he might not live to see tomorrow, Danny decided it was time to stop hiding. He told Claire the whole truth. After spending so many days together, how could he not notice that his one act of saving her had quietly captured the heart of this beautiful woman? But Danny had his own goals. He had someone he still loved, someone who remained in his heart. And now, with his fate uncertain, he couldn't let Claire fall in love with him. That would be unfair to her. But just as he finished telling her everything and mentioned his friend Harry.
Yeah.
Harry Finley? My God, no. Some woman called yesterday and left a message on the machine, but I thought it was a wrong number. I'm sure it's still on the machine.
Claire wanted to help Danny uncover the truth. She tried to convince the doctor to discharge him immediately. But not only did the doctor refuse, he also revealed that agents from a secret organization would be coming soon to take Danny away. Without a word, Claire made a bold and risky decision. Even if it meant losing her job, she had to get Danny out of there. She couldn't let those people use him for research. With that belief, Claire and her sons sprang into action. After narrowly avoiding the researchers again and again, they finally managed to get into the car headed home. Following a clue left in a message, they arrived at a house.
Hello, ma'am. I'm looking for a man named Harry Finley. He was a scientist. His wife's name was Blanche. He was from Chicago.
I'm sorry, but my father is dead.
When Danny heard the news, he nearly lost the strength to stand. Though learning about his friend's death was a heavy blow, at least they'd found the right person. Through Susan's story, Danny finally learned what had happened after he was frozen. Not long after he entered the cryo chamber, a fire broke out in the lab. Harry had rushed in to save him, but never made it back out. Because Danny had been frozen in violation of protocol and Harry was the only one who knew, the chamber sat untouched for 50 years. Susan also gave him Harry's notebook. Inside, Danny found the answers to the two questions that had haunted him. Why had none of this ever been reported in the news? Why had the technology never been passed down? The truth was, cryogenic freezing had a fatal flaw. The passage of time didn't stop during the process. All the body's functions would continue to age. Once revived, the person would physically catch up to their actual age, which meant Danny would soon be no different from an 80-year-old man. Since the process couldn't actually extend life, it made sense that the project had been buried in history. At that moment, Danny saw a familiar photograph. The woman in the picture was Helen. He sat in the garden, staring at the photo for a long time.
Helen.
Is that your child?
No, we were never married.
It's me in the picture. I was 2. Daniel. Helen's alive.
As it turned out, Helen had fully recovered. She had lived alone on a small island ever since, and the girl in the photo wasn't her child either. After learning what Danny had done for her, Helen vowed never to marry anyone else. While they were racing to reach her, the research team finally caught up. Even though Claire drove as fast as she could, Danny still felt they were moving too slow. The fastest way to reach that island was by plane. Nat had the same thought. He suggested they check out the Aerospace Expo. Claire was deeply moved by Danny's story. So for once in her life, she decided to throw caution to the wind. She drove straight into the expo and helped Danny take off in the plane. The researchers arrived late. Frustrated by their failure, they blamed everything on Claire. Just then, the head of the group pulled Claire aside and gently explained why they needed Danny's help. After Harry, the original developer of the cryo chamber project, passed away, no further breakthroughs were made in the field. Because the incident had happened so suddenly, Harry never had the chance to share all of his research. As a result, many questions in life extension studies that had already been answered years ago now had to be re-explored from scratch. Once Claire understood what they were really after, she actually felt relieved. She opened the car door and handed over the notes and research papers they had brought from Harry's house. This successfully redirected the research team's attention away from Danny, but just as everything seemed to be resolved, Claire suddenly realized something. She turned to look at the car, only to find that her son had completely vanished. Danny was momentarily speechless, but there was no turning back now. He had no choice but to accept that Nat was coming along. With Danny at the controls, the plane soared across the sky as blue as the ocean. His hands gripped the controls tightly, knuckles pale from the pressure, but his heart had already flown ahead. His mind was filled with Helen's face. It had been 50 years. What would Helen be like now? Had time left its marks on her face as well? As the thought of seeing her again crept in, Danny's heart pounded with intensity. Excitement and nervousness clashed within him, like a fluttering deer trying to escape, but deep down he was afraid that Helen might not remember him at all. As the house finally came into view, the chest pain flared up again. Following Danny's guidance, Nat took over the controls. The plane shook and swayed. Nat was terrified, but he followed Danny's instructions perfectly. After several tense moments, the plane finally touched down. At the very last second, under Nat's steady hands, the aircraft came to a safe stop. Danny took a moment to catch his breath and recover. Once he felt slightly better, the two of them stepped off the plane. By now, Danny's appearance matched that of an 80-year-old man. No doubt the woman about to appear before him would also have a head of white hair. With a heart full of anticipation and joy, Danny knocked on the door. But no one answered, despite knocking several times. At that moment, he felt as if the heavens were playing a cruel joke on him. But just as Danny stood there in despair, staring blankly into the distance, it was as if some invisible force connected him and Helen. He slowly turned around to look behind him.
So you gonna marry me or what?